In this video, we're going to discuss the next section of the lab report that you're going to work on, the results section. Our objectives are to write a clear and concise results section, accurately explaining your data, and to analyze and critique the results section of sample documents. So when writing the results section, this is usually the shortest section of a report. And again, we want to make sure that we're in past tense. So did, ran, saw, active voice, so rather than drops were added, you want to say the scientist added the drops. And then third persons, you want to refer to your group as the group, the researchers, the team, the scientist, the experimenter, that sort of thing. You don't want to say I did this, we did this. And you also don't want to say do this, saw that, etc. You want to summarize your results, and this is the part where you're going to present your tables and your figures and talk about them. And you want to report the statistical outcomes. So did you see something that was statistically significant? And give those p-values of what you ran was a t-test or an ANOVA. And explain the statistical test that you ran, the parameters you set, and the values you got. Don't include an interpretation of the findings or place your results in any sort of context. So don't explain why you saw what you saw or what that could mean or what you would do next. You just want to say what the data is showing. You never want to report, however, your raw data. You can mention outliers if that is evident using statistical tests, but you don't want to say every single value that you got. And you want to present your tables and figures in a logical order. And this is not necessarily the order in which you ran the experiments. Instead, you want to keep with a flow and a story for what you're trying to say. And that's the order that the tables and figures should go in. You want to explore the effects and relationships outside of the hypothesis too, but don't report the supplemental findings unless they are interesting or consequential. So save the supplemental data for the supplement. You want to focus on trends. So describe the takeaways from a figure and then cite the figure in parentheses, and include the means as your main data point. So saying this group is higher than that group with a mean of this versus a mean of that. And then you want to say what the relationships. This group is 3 times greater than that group, or 20% lower, or 1.5 times out of the control. And then you want to include any statistics or formula that you use to get those relationships. So if we're talking about percent change, you want to include the formula for percent change. How did you get that number? What does percent change mean? How do you calculate it? You want to avoid being too vague. Time for vagueness is not in your results section. You want to be specific about the numbers. And you want to use the word significant when there are differences in a relationship that you've shown by statistics, or if that didn't turn out to be true. So not statistically significantly different or statistically significantly different. And then you want to cite the stats after these claims in a parentheses like you would a literature source. So this group is 1.5 times different than that group, and the difference is statistically significant, parentheses, student t-test, comma, p equals, and then the number that the p equals. Don't use the table or the figure as the subject of a sentence. So don't say figure 1 shows. No. The data is the data, so talk about it, but don't make the subject the figure. You want to just reference the figure. And there's no such thing as bad data or a failed experiment. Your experiment didn't fail if it doesn't support your hypothesis. They're just data that didn't support your hypothesis. So you want to frame it in that context. And you don't want to move, add, or delete data points to improve or create trends in your results. The data is the data. If it is approaching significance but not significant, just say that. And then if there are actual outliers, and there are statistical tests that you can do to show that something is an outlier, you can remove it, but you don't remove something just because it doesn't support your hypothesis. And if you do remove a data point because it is statistically an outlier, you have to explain why you did what you did. Poorly designed experiments can be repeated, and you can mention that in the discussion. So what kind of changes you made to an experiment to improve it. But you don't say that in the results section. The results section, you just report the results. And then in the discussion, you say, we did this first experiment, seen in figure 1. It had this sort of confounding variable, so we tweaked it, and we did this experiment, seen in figure 2. So now it's your turn. You've got a few different things to do this week. You're going to edit and improve some sample results sections. you're going to build on your reaction time lab report by adding a results section. So you'll turn in the methods and the results. And you want to improve your figures based on what we covered in the Excel tutorial class. And then afterwards, you're going to provide peer review. So we're really working on writing as a process. Again, it's not just over and done with. We're going to keep improving, keep working on it. And we're going to do that with our method section and our results. And bit by bit, we're going to build up a full lab report. So get to it.